Hi, my name is Chuck Michael. I'm a presidential director with Lifewave, and the purpose of this recording and this training site is to give you some insights on the compensation plan. And I encourage you to watch this several times, and the way that I want to present it is the way that I do when I'm talking with folks about getting started in the business. So there's a lot of detail, and we're not going to try to get into every ounce of that in this training because it's on the website. There's tremendous resources. It's more of a big picture, a general theme of the compensation plan. But most important, it's a way that I like to show it to folks that have a business mind because, quite frankly, it's the compensation plan that has allowed me to enjoy some pretty serious success with Lifewave and the earnings that I'm able to achieve. So we're going to take it in various sections. Keep in mind that the real tight detail is on the website, but this is going to give you, I think, a pretty comprehensive overview and a great way to explain it to people that are looking at Lifewave to build a pretty serious business. First of all, the different areas of compensation start with retail. In other words, retailing the product itself. It's a retail profit margin. And what's interesting about the retail profit margin is it's somewhat elastic. In other words, because we're certainly in the age of the internet, people will go to your website and they will order product. And you'll get a notification of when orders come in. You can actually see it. There's tremendous detail on the website. But that's going to give you a 20% markup to your cost. So if people go into the website, the default on what they'll be paying retail, you'll earn 20%. So if there's a $100 sale, you make $20. And the retail is, in many ways, there will be folks within your distribution channel, people that you've brought into the business, other people that are in your group, that may be more natural retailers than you. I was not a natural retailer. I'm not a health practitioner. I'm not a fitness associated with a fitness center. I looked at Lifewave as a business from a business perspective because that's my background. In other words, I wanted to build a team. But you'll have folks within your group that are just the nature of what they do. They're more focused on the retail side. It might be a dentist, a doctor, a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, acupressurist, someone who's into holistic wellness. I mean, the list goes on and on. Coaches, people with fitness centers. But what's interesting about the retail is that if folks are ordering direct from someone's site, the company offers you Visa, MasterCard, American Express. All the merchant accounts are built in. You get paid. So it's pretty simple. You don't have to set all that up. But if you're actually in more of a retail environment, you have elasticity into the pricing. For instance, I have a fitness trainer that marks it up 100%. Now, the rationale, so just to do the math, if that person sells $100 in product, they make $100 in profit. Is that obscene? Not really, because the rationale is there's a lot more hands-on. You can see that in many products that are retailed. If you buy a Coca-Cola out of a vending machine, it's one price. But if you're sitting on the beach in Maui, it's a different price because there's a sort of a service attachment to the product being sold. And that's in many ways analogous to the retailing side of Lifewave. In other words, if you're a fitness trainer and you're working with someone and they get better workouts because they're wearing the patches, and we see this over and over, it's not unusual to have those folks mark it up 100%. So depending a little on your background, I just want to make it clear that there isn't a hard number on the retail side, except when people are ordering off your website, okay? But from there, let's get into what I call the big money in Lifewave, because you can make some money retailing. It's interesting because I see every month product that's being purchased off of my website, and it's a nice income, and I have no idea where the volume's coming from. So that's exciting. I have basically an e-commerce business with no overhead. I don't have to inventory product. I don't have any expenses. I don't have to have a merchant account. I just get paid by handing someone a business card, and the curiosity many times will take them to the website and they'll order product. So obviously it's a very, very big part of what we do. but I want to take you to really the big money in Lifewave, as it is with any networking company, is you want to be building a team. In other words, you want to be building a distribution channel. And I would give you a simple business analogy. If you had a McDonald's hamburger stand, you're going to sell hamburgers, burgers, fries, and shakes and make some money with your individual unit. But if you have 50 McDonald's in 50 states throughout the United States, or maybe they're centered on the West Coast, that's a very serious business enterprise. And you're looking at it a little bit differently. You've got a whole team of managers that you're managing and running your operation of 50 hamburger outlets. So that's somewhat similar to what we want to achieve within Lifewave. But the good news is we don't have the overhead, we don't have the expense, and we don't have to position capital to be able to do that. We can do it with sweat equity alone. In fact, it's interesting when I look back at the earnings that I've achieved with Lifewave, which is very, very serious cash flow. I did it with a $500 startup, folks. I mean, that's laughable when you realize what it takes in today's environment to get a business started. And it also means that you've minimized the risk, because business fails. Well, if I failed on $1 million business, that hurts. But if I fail on a $500 investment, it isn't quite so serious. Now, we don't want you to fail. That's why we're excited that you're on this training site. And we're going to do everything we can to share with you what we do. Myself and a lot of members of the advisory board and other what we would call serious Lifewave distributors, they're sharing what they do on a daily basis to build a business. So pay attention, go through it, and try to be able to do what I'm doing, because this is the way I show the compensation plan. Okay, so we're going to talk about what I would call the more robust business side, which is building the wholesale side. I talked retail. Now I'm going to be talking about building the wholesale side, which, getting back to the McDonald's example, it's very similar. You want to build 50, 500, 5,000 other distributors within your team that are selling Lifewave products and expanding their business. Why? Because you get an override on it all, and that's royalty income. But most important, it's serious leveraged income. And generally, when you talk about leveraged income, you're leveraging off of money. Not so with Lifewave. What you're leveraging off is other people's talents, maybe their location. Like, it's not the least bit unusual to see someone who you may have brought in the business that has a friend in New York, that's got a buddy in Denver, that knows someone in France. Well, when product is ordered, you get paid. Now, think about that with traditional business. You probably, unless you've set up those branch operations, it's hard to follow the money stream. Not so with Lifewave. You can actually go into your back office and see where all these dots connect. So as volume comes in, you're getting paid. So what I want to show you on the wholesale side is how these dots connect. And I'm going to be maybe a little bit overly dramatic because of this compensation plan, but I think it's important because the compensation plan offers you what I think is very, very rare, and that's the ability to track volume to infinity. Now, that's a pretty aggressive word, but it's fact. Wherever your downlines taproot to, you get paid. There's no cutoff whatsoever, which is why this compensation plan is being copied in the industry, because it is so unique and so powerful. So let me show you how it lays out. We're going to take a look at the wholesale side now, and here you are as a distributor. And what happens and what enables you to actually get paid on volume, no matter where it's coming in through your group, is because of the way the schematic lays out. So pay close attention, because it's a little bit different. So I'm going to assume that you're talking with folks that you know. Maybe it's within your industry, maybe it's friends and family, maybe you're a lead program, but you want to grow your business. And you're talking to prospect A, B, C, and they don't do much, but D likes the idea. They can see it, they want to make some money, they love the product. So D joins your team. Now at that point, you kind of make your first decision. Do I want to put my first rep D, on my left side, or do I want them to go over here on my right side? because the first folks that you bring into the business are going to be positioned under you on either the left side or the right side. In other words, you're not going to go wide. You're not going to keep going like this, okay? That's not the way this compensation plan works, which is powerful because if you're going this way, the company has to limit how deep you can go, or there wouldn't be enough money to pay everybody and the company survive. What's nice about this plan is wherever this tap roots to, you get paid, okay? So let me show you how this connects. So you've gotten started, and you recruited Dan over here, who you decided to put on the left side. And you're continuing to show the business, and maybe at this over here, Betty kind of rethinks it, loves the product, says, you know what, I really want to join the team. So you might put Betty on your right side. So there you are with your first two distributors. Congratulations, you started building the wholesale side of the business. Because as they start to market and sell products, you get paid. See, all of a sudden, you've gone from a one-man army to where you've expanded your business to where it's twice as big through the leverage of other folks. And here's something else that a lot of people don't really understand within this industry of why it's so powerful, is you're leveraging off of other people's skill sets, who they might know in other parts of the country or the world. For instance, you might be maybe you're not real comfortable in a selling marketing environment other than folks that are real close to you. Well, Betty could be a world beater, and she just loves to get up in front of groups, 500, 1,000 people. She can rally groups in Chicago, New York. Well, that's great because all of a sudden you're cheering her on. Okay, so that's the way it starts. First distributor, and you can decide, do I want them on my left or on my right? Wherever you want to place them, you can do it. Now, let's say that they expand pretty quickly. Dan's got a couple of relationships. Maybe he's a marketer and he expands his group. So what he's done is started his left and his right. So again, using the same diagram, Dan has a left side and a right side. Okay? And Betty, same thing. Betty gets started. She has her two. Now, at about that point, you're continuing to enjoy the product. You're sharing it with folks. You're doing the basics. And you share it with Eddie over here, and Eddie likes the idea. Well, here's where it gets different from other compensation plans. And this is what's very unique, and you'll probably experience a little of this too. It's what we call spillover volume. So at this point, because you cannot add Eddie out here, you're going to have to put Eddie down under Dan or under Betty. Doesn't matter because there are no levels. When Eddie makes a sale, you get full volume. It isn't watered down because it has to travel up 200 or 200 levels. I'll explain that in a minute. So let's say, well, I think that Eddie, because he's in the same town, his skill sets are a little bit like Betty, I'm going to put Eddie over here. All right? So there you put your third rep. Okay, this is your first, this is your second rep, and this is your third. Now, here's where the spillover volume is kind of interesting because Eddie might start building his team pretty quickly. Well, all of his sales volume accrues to Betty's rep here, to Betty, and to you. It doesn't water down. So if there's $100 in volume here, this rep gets $100 credit, Betty gets $100 credit, and you get $100 credit. Now, how does that reward Eddie, who's been put in this place? Well, watch this. Let's say Betty expands a little bit, and her next rep goes here, but then she puts her brother Fred down here. Well, all of a sudden, Eddie was sharing volume with the team. Well, Betty reciprocated with Fred down here that Eddie now benefits from, okay? So let me slow that down for a second. Eddie makes some sales, grows his group. Well, Fred's volume goes through Eddie, through Betty's rep, through Betty, and back to you. So it's all flowing up. And I think the best way, I like to put things in more everyday business terms. I think sometimes it's easier to follow. let's say that you decided to start a chain of Starbucks, and you've got 50 Starbucks on the eastern United States. Okay, they're all scattered over here. We'll call this the Missouri River, right, or the Mississippi River. We're going to say this is the East Coast, and these Starbucks are expanding. And if there's a sale of a latte of one of your Starbucks in Florida, you get paid. It doesn't matter that it's way down here in Florida, you get paid. Same thing with Lifewave. It doesn't matter where they are. When there's a sale, you get paid. Okay? Now, over on this side, same thing. Your Starbucks chain is expanding, and wherever there's a sale, you get paid. So the whole theme is you're basically building a team on the left side and a team on the right side. Wherever there's a sale, bingo, you get paid. It doesn't have to be at a certain level. It doesn't matter. If this were to drift 20 levels or 200 levels, there's a sale, it's all yours. Okay, here's what happens. Volume is beginning to develop. Okay, you've got some sales here, you've got some sales here, and they could be small orders, $100, $50. I've had a $10,000 order come in. Once in a while, you'll get some, you don't know, it's random, but it's fun because whatever is sold within this team on the left, you get paid. Same thing on the right. And how do you get paid? Well, let's just in this example say that you've been building volume, and at the end of the week, because you get paid every week, it's kind of cool, the computer is going to go through here and it's going to add up all of the little increments of sale. Think it again of the analogy I used before about Starbucks. At the end of the week, whoever owns 100 Starbucks, or maybe it's daily, they're going to reconcile what were my sales for the week of my West Coast operation and what were all the sales for the week of my East Coast operation. Knowing a lot of them were a $3 sale, a $5 sale, of whatever, but it's the total of where the big money is. Same thing with Lifewave. So this is beginning to add up. And let's say that you had a total of $10,000 on the left side, everything added up for the week, and you had $20,000 on the right side. Now, I'm going to kind of jump a step ahead, but let me define it. You're actually paid on points. So when you look at the comp plan and the explanation, it's going to say when you have 10,000 points and 20,000 points. And a point is about 80% of the wholesale price. Okay, so I'm going to use dollars just to keep this simple, but it's basically whatever the point structure is, that's what you get paid on. But we'll use dollars because it's a little bit easier to follow. Okay, so the addition was done. The computer did all the calculations, and actually you can see it happening every day, every minute. It's kind of fun because it's real time. But let's say Sunday night at midnight, this is what the computer sees. 10,000 on the left, 20,000 on the right. Okay, now here's the first rule of getting paid. Okay, and there's three. You're going to get paid three different ways, but let's take the first one first. And that is you're going to be paid 15% of all of the sales volume, okay, 15% of all of the sales volume on the lesser leg. Okay, so the computer takes a look and it says, okay, 10,000 is less than 20. So for this part of the pay plan, I'm going to pay you 15% of all of the volume in the lesser leg. Now the next part pays you on both sides, but I'm going to show you all three income opportunities on the wholesale side. So the first one is 15% of all of the sales volume of the lesser leg. Okay, so the computer says, well, that's pretty simple. 10,000 is less than 20, so you made, for the week, you made $1,500. Okay, 15% of the lesser leg. Now, there's only one footnote to that, and the footnote is very important, all right? The footnote is this. The footnote is that I'm going to pay you 15% of the lesser leg every week as long as the stronger leg is twice as big as the number that I pay you on. A lot of words, but let me show you graphically. Here we got lucky, right? You had 10,000 and you had 20,000. So you got paid on all of the 10,000 because you had twice as much volume in the strong leg. Remember the rule, 15% of all the volume in the lesser leg, as long as the stronger leg is twice as big. Bingo, you hit it, so you made $1,500. That's pretty cool. So the week ends, okay? So now we're going to go to the next week, and you had 20,000 here, and you had 30,000 here. Well, Sunday night, the computer adds it up, it does the math, but it says, whoa, you've got 20,000 here, but to be in strict compliance, you'd have to have 40,000 here, okay? But that's okay, it just works backwards and says, well, you've got 30, so I can pay you on 15,000, right? Because 15,000, now the computer does this pretty fast, you don't have to think about it. The computer says, okay, well, 15,000 is a number I can pay you on because you've got twice as much in the strong leg, all right? So you would be paid 15% of 15,000 or $2,250 for the week. But what's interesting is that extra volume is carryover. It's just going to move down. So Sunday night at midnight, you were paid on 15,000, but at midnight plus a minute, that extra 5 rolled down. So when you wake up Monday morning and you look at your score sheet, you say, wow, I start out Monday with $5,000 in sales that's carrying over. You never lose it. It just carries over. All right, very important. And it's kind of fun because what will end up happening is you might see one leg get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's a motivator. You start chasing from the other side. So it's a very fair compensation plan. But it goes both ways, this carryover. Let me give an example. Let's say that going into this next week where you started Monday morning with this carryover volume of 5,000, your team collectively did another 25. So Sunday night, the computer sees 30,000 in total volume, right? 5,000 carryover, 25,000 new for a total of 30,000. And over here, you had a great week and there was 80,000 in volume, okay? So the computer takes a look and says, wow, you've got twice as much volume here, right? You only need 60, you get 80. So it's going to pay you 15% straight away, 30,000 for the week you made $4,500. But you only needed 60, right? So the computer's going to throw a 60 here, and that matches, remember the rule, 15% lesser leg. As long as the strong leg's twice as big, well, you had 30. You only needed 60. So it's not going to take that extra. It's going to roll it down to Monday morning. So here you had carryover volume of extra volume. So when you wake up Monday morning, you've made $4,500 for the week. Not bad. That's probably just the car payment, I know. But at least if you're living in Southern California, it's only the car payment, right? But the bottom line is that you only needed 60, so you start Monday morning with carryover volume of 20,000 in volume. Now, in the old days, this compensation plan had kind of a bad rap, and justifiably so, because they used to flush all that away. You say, hey, that's my sales, it's gone, right? Not the case with Lifewave. It just keeps carrying it over and moving it forward. So it's, again, there's some dynamics to this that I know was critical that has allowed me to enjoy the earnings that I enjoy. And a lot of it is this banked volume, okay, just rolling it forward. Okay, so that's income number one, which is, again, looking at the rule, 15% of all the volume in the lesser leg. Well, now, at the same time, you're going to get paid in both legs. Well, how does that work? Well, this is income number two, and this is called matching bonuses. Now, what is so unique about matching bonuses is that it's a built-in kind of an incentive for you to make sure that you're training your people right, okay? Because you're going to match what they earn. I used to be in commercial real estate, and the folks that were right in my office were my biggest competitors. And we had folks that would sneak into the conference room to make a deal. They were so afraid someone might listen or someone might hear some proprietary information on a piece of real estate. So while we were a team, we were also everyone's biggest competitors. Not the case with Lifewave. What you want to do is you want to share everything that you've got with everybody who you bring in the business. You want to get them trained right. If you've got a picture, if you've got a testimonial, if you've got some documentation in your sales book, you want to give everything to your people, because whatever they do in earnings, you match to the tune of 25%. Now that's huge. Here's what I mean. Okay, we know that you personally sponsored Dan, right? That was your personal. We'll put a little star here. We know that you personally sponsored Betty, and we know that you personally sponsored Eddie, okay? So you have on your front line, so to speak, or what we call first generation. And it's just like you having children. Your first generation are your children. Well, first generation are those that you personally sponsored, okay? So first generation in matching bonuses, okay, first generation. Now don't confuse this with levels. It's easy to do. I did, so I'm going to try to, take you down the right path. You would think, gosh, here's Eddie 1, 2, 3 levels down. Wouldn't that be third generation? No. There's a very clear distinction between levels. You're right, Eddie is 3 levels down, but he's first generation, even though he tumbled down here. He had to, right? So don't worry about levels with matching bonuses. For instance, let's say that this leg continues to cascade deeper and you sponsor Mary. Well, Mary is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels down, but first generation to you, right? Because you sponsored her. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because whatever your first generation earns, you make 25% of their earnings. Now, let me make the distinction. Here, you got paid 15% of sales, right? It's just like if you're selling automobiles, if you sell a new Lexus, you get whatever the percentage is, you get paid on the gross sales price, on sales. Be careful, because here you're getting paid on commissions of other people. The company sends you a matching bonus. So it's basically a built-in training bonus, because you want to help your first generation. They're new, they're just getting started. You probably have more info, you probably have some insights. You want to make sure that they're well trained, because you've got a very strong vested interest in their business. 25%, not of their money, but the company sends you a bonus, 25% of whatever they earn. Well, let's go back and do some math. Let's say that this leg that had $10,000 in sales, Dan could have very easily earned $1,000. Well, Dan's first generation to you. So for Dan, you earn $250 in matching bonuses. Whatever Dan earns, you make 25% in a bonus. Just as when you made, if you remember the example, when you made $1,500, whoever sponsored you is going to get a 25% bonus on that $1,500. They don't take your money. The company sends that as a bonus. Same thing. First generation, Dan, Betty, and Eddie, whatever they earn, and let's do the math. Let's say that Dan earned $1,000. Let's say that Betty earned $1,000. And let's say that Eddie's just getting started, made $100. Okay? Well, on Dan, 25% of $1,000 is $250. On Betty, 25% of $1,000 is $250. And on Eddie, just getting going, 25% of $100 is $25, right? So you made $525 for the week in matching bonuses, right? And what is unique is that it doesn't matter where your folks are scattered. Remember, it has nothing to do with levels, because here's Eddie way down here, and here's Mary way down here. In fact, let's say Mary made $100. Well, first generation, you made another $25, okay? So you made $550 for the week in matching bonuses, all right? So to recap, first generation, don't confuse with levels. Wherever they go, they're like your children. You make a 25% bonus on everything they earn. Now, what about the folks that they sponsored? Well, let's go back up here. We know that you sponsored Betty. She's first generation, but Betty sponsored here and here. We'll give them a number. She sponsored Ann, and she sponsored Judy, okay? Just like a family, first generation is Betty. Well, when Betty has a couple of children or recruits Ann and Judy, that's second generation to you, right? First generation, second generation. Well, you get matching bonuses on second generation of 20%. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and I think it's important that you understand that one of the dynamics within networking, I know that's been very powerful in a lot of earnings in our company and others, is what's called a geometric growth. In other words, we don't grow arithmetically. We grow geometrically, meaning 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. And those numbers get big. Just to give you an example, let's show you just a minor touch of how the geometry works here. Let's say that Betty sponsored 2 people, Dan sponsored a couple of people, 1 and 2, and let's say that Eddie sponsors a couple of people, 1 and 2, and let's say that Mary sponsors a couple of people, 1 and 2. Well, look what happened. On your first generation, you sponsored, and you'll get paid 25% of all their earnings on 1, 2, 3, and 4 reps, okay? But look at the geometric kicker on who they sponsored, 2, 4, 6, 8. So second generation, you're going to get matching bonuses of 20% on 8 reps. So here you are just getting a business started, and you're leveraged out to 12 other reps matching their checks. That's huge. It's especially been so important with Lifewave because it encourages us all to work with one another. We're not competitors. We want everyone to grow because it's a strong vested interest, okay? So that's second generation, people who your first generation have sponsored, but it gets better than that because it goes third generation, 20%, okay? So now you take a look at leverage, and let me kind of sketch it out because it is very, very dynamic. This was your second generation. Now 1, 2, Ann and Judy, when they grow, so let's say they did the same thing, each sponsoring a couple of people, okay? What happens is it's going to double on itself. So it's your third generation. You're now matching 16 other reps, all right? That's geometric growth, 4 to 8 to 16, and you get paid 25, 20, and 20. So there's 65% paid out by the company to the reps and to the field in matching bonuses. It's powerful. And what enables you to do is, let's say that you're getting started and Betty really requires a lot of attention. Betty is a world beater. Betty just wants to open up New York and St. Louis and Michigan, and you're spending a lot of time with Betty. So you don't really have time to get this other leg ignited. You don't even need this other leg. You can support and get paid very, very well by just adding support to the reps in the field. And once they're self-sufficient, you can come back and develop your other leg and get matching bonuses over here. Powerful.